Kuasa Orang Muda.
Athikeshani Harikrishnan atau Ati kini berada di tahun ketiga pengajian undang-undang di Universiti Malaya. Minat beliau terhadap undang-undang dan keadilan sosial terselah sejak awal apabila beliau menerima anugerah pelajar cemerlang Cambridge dalam subjek undang-undang semasa berada di A-Level. Di UM, Ati aktif dalam advokasi dan program khidmat masyarakat. Beliau pernah menjadi presiden program outreach komuniti di mana beliau mengajar kanak-kanak tentang hak mengundi, isu buli dan pemeliharaan alam sekitar. Beliau juga memberi khidmat nasihat undang-undang secara pro bono sebagai penasihat pelajar di Klinik Bantuan Guaman UM. Dalam politik kampus, Ati memegang jawatan sebagai Naib Penyelaras 1 Demokrat Malaya di mana beliau memperjuangkan kebajikan pelajar dan kesedaran politik. Kecemerlangan akademik dan advokasinya juga dibawa ke peringkat antarabangsa apabila beliau mewakili UM dan Malaysia dalam pertandingan mod hak asasi manusia Nelson Mandela ke-16 di mana beliau diiktiraf sebagai 7 pendebat terbaik dan pasukannya mara ke peringkat suku akhir. Sedikit pengenalan untuk tetamu episod terbaru kali ini, Rakan Muda Presents Kuasa Orang Muda. Hai, Assalamualaikum. Salam sejahtera. Kita berjumpa lagi dan selamat datang ke episod terbaru Rakan Muda Presents Kuasa Orang Muda. Dan hari ini kita akan membincangkan satu topik yang sentiasa menjadi perdebatan hangat, penglibatan belia dalam politik. Ramai kata belia malas, tak nak ambil tahu soal politik atau mungkin hanya tak kisah. Tapi betulkah perkara ini? Bersama kita adalah Ati, seorang aktivis belia yang banyak berjuang dalam hal ini. Dan Ati, selamat datang kita ucapkan.
Thank you.
Dan terima kasih kerana sudi bersama-sama dengan kami dalam episod terbaru. And kita nak terus bertanyakan kepada Ati, apa pendapat Ati berkenaan dengan perkara yang saya sebutkan tadi? Ramai yang kata belia malas, tak nak ambil tahu tentang politik ataupun tak kisah tentang politik di Malaysia. Silakan.
Okay. Thank you for your question and thank you for having me here. Pada pendapat saya, dia macam kedua-dua ni, masalah ni dia hand in hand.
Okay.
So kalau kita lihat, I don't think belia malas or belia tak mahu ambil peduli, but it's a bigger picture where you have to see dari segi ruang dan peluang yang diberikan kepada belia untuk berjuang dalam arena politik negara.
Okay.
I think we have systemic barriers.
Okay.
And jika kita lihat sistem politik di Malaysia sekarang, kebanyakan dikuasai golongan yang lebih tua dan lebih berpengalaman. So, ini mungkin menyebabkan golongan orang muda, belia, berasa mereka tiada peluang atau support untuk masuk dan memikul tanggungjawab di arena politik negara. Let's look at IPU data statistics. So, in Parliament now, Dewan Rakyat kita ada dalam belia yang merangkumi umur 21 tahun sehingga 30 tahun, kita ada hanya 2 orang representatives yang dua-duanya lelaki. Dan jika kita lihat 31 tahun sehingga 40 tahun, kita ada 26 orang representatives. And total, kalau belia, sebab sekarang belia dia sehingga umur 40 tahun. Ya, kita ada 28 orang sahaja. That is 12.6% of the whole parliament. So I think it says a lot about how our politics is majorly controlled by golongan orang yang lebih berpengalaman dan lebih tua daripada belia. And another thing is, if we look at the studies by Merdeka Center and their data, we know that they found that youth interest in politics is not the same or not as it was 10 years ago. They found out that only 23% of belia, daripada 23% daripada golongan belia as a whole, is interested in politics. That's a decline. And if we see why, I think we can all relate to most of our upbringing. Persekitaran kita dipupuk, diajar, we grew up in environments yang mengatakan politik ni, persepsi politik keluarga kita maybe, is that politics is kotor. There's corruption everywhere and it's not for us. So stay away from it. And I think that itself is a barrier untuk belia memasuki arena politik. So more than saying youths are lazy, belia malas atau belia tak peduli, I think we care, because when you see issues happening, they raise their voice. There's always a student activist somewhere. There is always a youth activist. But I feel like they're not given the space or opportunity untuk memasuki atau, just explore this politic arena more, because there is a barrier that exists. And
adakah sistem politik dalam Malaysia sendiri tidak memberi ruang kepada para belia dan anak muda untuk evolve dalam politik? Pendapat
in my opinion, I think it's not the system itself. There's no hard and fast rule of how many youths can represent Malaysia in the parliament. So there is no hard and fast rule. Tapi we need to see reality. We grew up in a very conservative background. I think more than the West countries, we are very conservative. So most of us grew up in a I don't want problem mindset. So when you have that I don't want problem mindset, it automatically creates a system where you're not given the opportunity. Your opportunity is cut off from the start because you're told to stay away from it. That's how I see it.
Seronok bila kita bercakap dengan seorang pendebat, kerana apa yang dilontarkan tu begitu jelas dan tepat dengan apa yang diajukan. Banyak lagi yang saya nak ajukan selepas ini. Terus saksikan dan dengarkan kami dalam Rakan Muda Presents Kuasa Orang Muda. Kembali dalam Rakan Muda Presents Kuasa Orang Muda. Of course bersama dengan saya Atau dan juga tetamu kita untuk episod kali ini iaitu Ati. Dan kita ingin bercakap berkenaan dengan cabaran penglibatan politik cabaran penglibatan belia dalam politik. Ati, belia ni seringkali dianggap tidak cukup matang untuk membuat keputusan besar dalam politik. Padahal golongan tua yang sama juga banyak buat keputusan yang merosakkan masa depan negara. Apa yang menghalang belia dari masuk ke arena politik dan membuat keputusan yang penting? Adakah ini kerana ketidakpercayaan terhadap belia atau kerana sistem politik yang kelihatan lebih tertutup kepada mereka, lebih-lebih lagi dari golongan yang lebih berusia?
Again, this is my opinion. The way I see it is that it is always the system. It's always the bigger picture, because we're talking about national politics, right? So sistem politik yang lebih tertutup is the bigger answer, I feel. And I have 3 reasons for it. First is structural exclusion. So kalau kita lihat landscape politik kita, as I've said before, we can see that it's controlled oleh golongan yang lebih tua. Of course lebih berpengalaman, but lebih tua daripada belia and everything. So over the years, they've obviously established a network. They have menubuhkan rangkaian and their pengaruh has, mencetuskan pengaruh. So this, in my opinion, has always caused youths to be sidelined because they're just entering. It's like you're entering a group of lions as a cub, macam baby lion. You're going to be sidelined because everybody else is the bigger person. And I feel like when they're sidelined, they're also seen as inexperienced. So rather than belia tak matang, it's like jobs, right? You know how you're fresh graduate and then they ask you for experience. So it's the same thing. You enter, everybody else has experience, you are new, so you're sidelined. Let's just look at, I think one very obvious example is, of course, if you look at 2020, I remember this one incident from Parliament, Yang Berhormat Syed Saddiq itself, YB Muar. He was belittled and mocked in Dewan Rakyat itself by two of his fellow representatives. And that itself, he is already there. And he was still mocked. And all because he just wanted to interject and give his opinion. And he was told to, he was put down. And that itself is proof of how youth's voice are neglected, are not heard upon. So I think structural exclusion because of age, because you're young, because you just entered. So why should I listen to you? That is one. Second is, of course, cultural resistance. I think there's a notion that political leadership should go to, the older generation, people who have been here for generations, people who are experienced. But I feel that is because the experience came with age. They're there now because, aged. They have been here for quite some time and they've built upon it. But this concept basically leads to, if you see it, if I can simply put it, it is seniority over innovation, seniority over fresh ideas. So that is one, cultural resistance. You want fresh ideas, but you want it from senior people who have always been in this arena, and you don't want to accept opinions from people who've just entered from outside the box. So I think that is one. And also institutionalized limitations. When you're somewhere for so long, political parties, even if in campus politics, if we see, you're there for so long, for a purpose. You're not going to stay in a party without an ambition. So there is a certain kind of loyalty that comes along the way. And all this, if you see, is what is a cabaran for penglibatan belia dalam politik. That was your main question. So I don't think it is majorly ketidakpercayaan kepada belia. It is more of the system that they're in, this box that is hard to enter, it's hard to penetrate, to give your opinion, to be seen relevant. I think that is hard. But because of this box, then youths are so sidelined, youths are seen so inexperienced that anything that they say, now people are starting to see it as, why should I believe you? Why should I take your word for it? So I think the bigger picture is, of course, the system that we're in, the system that is closed to these youngsters, to youths.
Saya nak tambah sikit. Macam you cakap tadi, bukannya tak ada para belia di dalam parlimen untuk melontarkan idea dan pandangan mereka. Tetapi pertama, adakah keegoan menjadi faktor? Satu. Yang kedua, golongan yang berusia ini pun melihat ramai rakan-rakan mereka membuat keputusan yang salah. Apatah lagi untuk mempercayai suara anak muda yang baru yang mempunyai kebarangkalian membuat kesalahan yang lebih besar. Bukan saya pun menidakkan apa yang para belia boleh lontarkan idea, tidak. Tetapi macam yang kita semua tahu, proses kita belajar kebanyakannya adalah proses di kala kita muda, which is kita dipersilakan untuk membuat kesalahan supaya kita boleh mencari penyelesaian di masa akan datang. So, adakah ini, selain daripada perkara sistem tadi tu, adakah ini antara punca-punca yang menyebabkan bukannya anak muda ataupun belia tidak boleh melontarkan idea, tetapi at the end of the day, keputusan yang diambil tidak mengambil kira langsung idea yang dilontarkan tadi?
I think, of course, it plays a factor. I think everybody thinks differently, and there's 222 people in that room, in that parliament, So, and if we look at the bigger picture, there's even more youngsters out there. Everybody would have a different view. Everybody have different political leanings. But if you ask me if ego plays a factor, I think it depends on the person.
Okay.
I think if you're young and you're egoistic and you're not willing to learn, then you're not going to go very far, and you can't blame it on youth.
Okay.
But I think we shouldn't use certain individuals to generalize that all youths are like that. I think fresh ideas that are good for the table, good for the people, should be brought forward. And we are not saying, I don't think I said anywhere as well, that golongan orang tua ni, they're not supposed to be, golongan lebih tua is not supposed to be in this arena politics. You need people who are experienced. Young people who are just entering, they wouldn't see certain things that experienced people might have seen. But should that be a reason for them to be entirely sidelined? I know better, you don't. No. I think everybody needs to give and take for the better of the people, betterment of the people instead of betterment of themselves. The bigger picture is the people. You're there for the people. You're elected by the people. So I think, I hope that answers.
Okay, thank you. Dan untuk kenyataan yang lebih pedih lagi, kalau kita lihat belia yang cuba bersuara, ramai yang akhirnya berdepan dengan ancaman, ugutan dan sekadar diketepikan macam you katakan tadi. Bagaimana agaknya belia sepatutnya melawan halangan ni?
Okay, this is a hard question.
Okay.
I thought about this for quite some time, but I feel it's always my belief that I always tell my juniors, my friends, if you're on the right path, you're going to have problems. But that is sometimes an indication that you're on the right path. Kita sometimes, bila kita lantang bersuara, bila kita berani bersuara, akan ada halangan in our path. But how you overcome it is on the individual. So, there's obviously two different takes. I think it differs on the individual, on the seriousness of the issue. One is, of course, you take the softer route. You don't lantang sangat, and then you see the bigger picture. You see how if you keep quiet now, and you build your base, and you collect data, one day you'll be able to solve this, but it's going to take time.
Okay.
But if it's an issue that needs solution now, then teruskan lantang bersuara. But of course, I think it differs on an individual basis because we all differ in commitments. What matters to us, our safety. There is no direct answer on how you can overcome an ancaman or ugutan. It shouldn't even be there in the first place. It is saddening that when you voice out for your own rights, you get this kind of threats. But it obviously, I feel like it depends on the person and their commitment and the issue. And when we voice out for something, I think we always need to make sure that we're not rushing into it.
Okay.
I'm not a person that likes jumping on the bandwagon. So macam, if something is dihangat diperkatakan and then you just want to say something on it and then you make it an issue, it doesn't always end well. But if you really go and research the issue and you think it's an issue and you need to voice out because you have the platform, then go ahead. Safety mechanisms are always there, but at the end of the day, you are for yourself. So it's a very hard question to answer on how youths can overcome this because it's subjective. I feel like go for what you can do, but if you're going for the softer route, then what you can do is social media campaigning. We saw Bendera Putih, and Bendera Putih was during COVID, and it was a social media led advocacy that led to changes. So you can do that and maybe see the issue that is going to be solved rather than sometimes, although you know the bigger issue, the bigger issue is going to harm you if you attack directly. Then you go to the people, go to the roots of the problem, and you attack the roots of the problem, solve the roots of the problem. Okay. So I think that's what happened with Bendera Putih as well. And for youths, right, I feel like civil social engagement as in NGOs. NGOs are a very good platform. There's so many non-governmental organizations that belia yang nak ada perubahan, find these organizations or form these non-governmental organizations and work your motive through it. sometimes all we do is bersuara, but with no outreach to back up. So I think that's the way to go about it. But it's a very subjective question. And
yeah. But at least there is some tindakan yang boleh diambil. Okay, menyusul soalan seterusnya selepas ini, terus saksikan kami Rakan Muda Presents Kuasa Orang Muda. Rakan Muda Presents Kuasa Orang Muda bersama dengan saya Atau Terus dan Ati pada hari ini sebagai tetamu untuk episod kali ini. Dan tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, mengundi adalah hak asasi setiap warga negara. Tapi ada juga pihak yang kata belia tidak cukup matang untuk buat pilihan yang betul dalam politik. Ada juga pihak yang kata undi belia ni tak penting pun, takkan mengubah apa-apa senario dalam politik negara kita. Ati, apakah pendapat anda berkenaan dengan kenyataan itu? Adakah benar undi belia memang kurang bernilai dalam konteks politik Malaysia?
Okey. Bagi saya, jauh dari benar kalau kita nak mengatakan bahawa undi belia ni kurang bernilai dalam konteks politik Malaysia. Okay, let's look at selepas undi 18. Okay, undi 18 ni kita tahu dia merendahkan had limit mengundi belia dari 21 tahun ke 18 tahun. Okey, berdasarkan data daripada Electoral Commission of Malaysia, kumpulan belia merangkumi 50.3% daripada golongan pengundi. So, ini pengundi yang berumur 18 sehingga 39 tahun. Okay. And jumlah pengundi merupakan 1,393,000 dan 549 orang pengundi. So, dari segi nombor sahaja pun, I think we can see, kita boleh lihat that undi belia ni sangat bernilai kepada politik negara. It can make or break the government. Right? Namun bagi saya, if you ask me, tiada makna jika diberi kuasa tanpa mereka sedar betapa besarnya peranan atau tanggungjawab mereka dalam politik negara. It is a very unpopular opinion, especially among youths. And we are here for youth, Kuasa Orang Muda.
Kuasa Orang Muda.
But it is my opinion that Undi 18 is a very good initiative. It is a great initiative. But was it prematurely implemented in Malaysia? Why am I saying this? I feel like it's prematurely implemented. Yes, it is good to give this 50.3% a voice to be heard, a right to vote. It is our hak. But let's look at our local context. We come from school backgrounds, where it is a peraturan on buku peraturan. I don't know if the youngsters nowadays have buku peraturan. I had. And our buku peraturan specifically says that discussion about politics is not allowed within school campus. And we spend, as students, most of our time in school. Most of our day is spent in school. And who do you spend it with? Your teachers, your peers. And you're curious, right? But you don't get to ask. So that itself cuts the political discussion. So until you're 17 and out of school, at least for the government schools, right? I come from a government school. So at least for the government schools, until you're 17, you don't get to speak about it. And as I said, some of us come from conservative families that wouldn't speak about it to you when you're young at home. So, and some people are from families that wouldn't have the knowledge of national politics to speak about them to their children, even if their children are interested. So I think that Undi 18 is good, it's great, but it should have been in phases where you educate these people. You're giving, vote is a power. Vote is, if you see Akademi Orang Muda, one of their logos, their picture is the cards that says Orang Muda. Orang Muda is a card. Youths are cards to play. But did we play it too fast? I think we did. I think we should have educated these youths in stages about political. We should have given them political education, which I think we're lacking of. Most of us are exposed to politics when we step foot in universities, and that is if we take that step. Most of us, some of us, we do not want to be involved in politics, even in campus, right? I see some of my friends who say, "Tak nak lah, kotor."
Okay.
Sometimes even I say, "Oh my God, kotornya." But you see, that still exists. So why did we give people voting rights so fast?
Okay.
That is my opinion. But if I don't agree that undi belia ni kurang bernilai, sangat bernilai. But did we give belia yang undi kuasa mengundi too fast? I think we did.
Okay.
But that's just my opinion.
Okay. Terdetik satu soalan. Macam you cakap tadi, sebaik-baiknya dalam pelaksanaan undi 18, undi di usia muda, pendidikan awal terutamanya ketika di zaman bangku sekolah itu perlu. Apa cara terbaik yang boleh dilakukan mengikut pandangan you, memandangkan politik tidak boleh diperkatakan di dalam institusi pendidikan?
Yeah, I think, see, that is the problem, because most of our times as youth, we spend it in school. And who do we look up to? Teachers. Teachers, we're not even allowed to ask about anything regarding politics. What's happening? Who's the government? What makes the break or makes or break the government? You know, all this, certain things are so sensitive that we don't speak about it in schools. When we ask, we're told, tak payahlah tahu, nanti je. And the nanti je carries on until you leave school. And you leave school at 17. In government schools, at least you leave at 17, right? And then you go to your pre-U matrix at 18. And suddenly, you're just given, okay, undi. Okay. What do you undi? So, do you undi with your own, do you make an informed choice? Or are you voting based on family influence? Peer influence, undi lah orang tu. Okay, I pun nak undi.
Yeah.
What are you voting on? Do you really know what you're voting on?
Yeah.
I think that is where, and cara terbaik is, of course, I think soft education. You don't have to go and say, because obviously different parties have different things that they stand for, and different people will choose different things. And if you ask one person to tell them about the parties, they will basically be chucking their opinion on the students. But what can be taught is simulations, you know. Okay, in classes, for example, this comes to my top of my mind, it's not well thought of, but simulations, you know, where you come up with fake parties, and this different parties stand for different things, and this party are casting few people, and all of them have manifestos. So you let the students decide on who they want to vote for, and maybe make them write, like we write karangans in school, and like karangans like kasut saya. So write about this candidates and why you're going to vote for them. What about their values or their manifesto stood out to you? That is education. That is giving them, like, okay, later on when you grow up, you'll be asked to do this, but in a real context. But this is how it's done. This is what you have to look for in a candidate for the country, in a leader of the country that you're voting for. I think simulations like this, what harm is it going to do? We do class elections, right? Make class election leaders, ketua class, how are they appointed? Teacher will say, okay, this person is the ketua class. Or you mengundi orang, and then you just, people will say names of their friends and you undi, right? But that's how it's done, without a manifesto, without something that the class rep will say, okay, you know, I think if I am the class rep, I'll bring this to the table. Let them do it. Make them vote for their leaders from a young age. Why not?
Okay. Awak macam tahu yang benda tu tengah main dalam fikiran saya.
Okay.
Bukan kata tak ada langsung pendidikan politik ini di sekolah. Ada. Contoh yang sama juga yang saya fikir, which is pemilihan ketua kelas. Tetapi dari zaman itu, dari ketika itu lagi, cara-cara memilih ketua kelas adalah kalau bukan anak cikgu, dia kena handsome. Ataupun dia pengawas dekat sekolah. Okay, dia akan, you know. So, bagaimana harus wujudnya satu pendidikan untuk educate, macam you cakap tadi, which is such a good idea. Cuma kita tak tahu mereka nak execute bagaimana. Okay, kita ada beberapa calon ketua kelas. Setiap ketua kelas, okay, beritahu kat depan apa yang janjikan untuk you punya kelas. Then biar diorang akan memilih kan. Tak, tapi yang jadi budaya adalah, kita pilih dia sebab dia nak cikgu. Kita pilih dia sebab dia handsome, dia ada jadi ketua kelas, you know. So seharusnya pendidikan itu perlu ada, dan saya setuju. Kita lihat semakin banyak wakil belia dalam politik, tapi adakah mereka benar-benar mewakili suara belia atau hanya sekadar boneka kepada parti politik? Apa yang patut kita harapkan dari wakil belia yang duduk dalam badan pembuat keputusan?
Okay. I think Malaysia over the last few years, I think we have seen youths entering national politics, and it's been inspiring. They might have their own controversies. Where do we not see controversy, right? But again, whether I'm a fan or not, different. But YB Sheikh Sadiq, one of the youngest MPs that we've had, and the founder of Muda, a youth belia, you know, and he held KBS portfolio. It's very inspiring, but the numbers, it's just starting. I think we need to grow that, right? But whether they're a boneka to their party, only they would know. But I feel like the challenge, there's always a challenge when these young politicians enter this arena. Like I said, they're a cub in a group of lions. So do they really get to represent youth interests that they want?
Okay.
Or are they limited by their party agendas, you know? So I think in my limited knowledge, at least, I'm not in anywhere near national politics, but these young reps are co-opted into this established political parties, and this may limit their ability to challenge certain things or advocate for major reforms. But I don't think their parties bonekas or anything, but I think at the end of the day, it's a seat at the table for the youth. We have to start somewhere. And what can we expect from this belia yang duduk dalam badan membuat keputusan is transparency and accountability. If you stand for something, be transparent to the public if you're using their money. Be transparent where it's going. You know, don't mishandle money, don't mishandle funds. And of course, accountability. If you've done something, be accountable for it. I think everybody makes mistakes, but you're a leader. People look up to you. So if you have made a mistake, be the bigger person, be accountable. I think that's what I would look for a leader.
Okay. Alright. Terima kasih di atas pendapat itu, dan kita ingin tanyakan lagi pendapat yang seterusnya. Di soalan yang seterusnya selepas ini akan saya ajukan. Terus bersama-sama untuk saksikan Rakan Muda Presents Kuasa Orang Muda. Rakan Muda Presents Kuasa Orang Muda. Kita ingin terus ajukan soalan yang seterusnya kepada Ati yang masih lagi setia bersama dengan kita untuk episod kali ini. Ati, sistem politik kita ada yang kata penuh dengan permainan kotor, rasuah, nepotisme, kronisme. Dalam situasi begini, macam mana kita nak pastikan belia yang mahu terlibat dalam politik tidak terjebak dengan budaya politik seperti ini? Adakah kita perlu rombak keseluruhan sistem untuk memberi ruang kepada belia yang lebih bersih dan juga progresif?
Okay. I think that the answer to that, the bigger answer to that, is combat dirty politics. This is something, of course, I'm not, again, anywhere near national politics, but I'm involved in campus politics. And dirty politics starts in campus, and that's surprising, but I've seen it.
Okay.
And if it can start in campus, imagine, and the level of kotor yang we're talking about is big.
Yeah.
Imagine how it is, and this is within one campus. Imagine how it is in a national scale.
Yep.
But it's going to take a long time to rombak. As sad as it is, that's the truth. But like I said, combat dirty politics, and one way to do it is, of course, push for transparency and accountability. Asset declarations is important. Campaign finance reforms, and not just national politics, campus politics, a lot of these things. And the second way is, like I said, education, mentorship for the young people in school. Since young, these people have to start young. As cliche as it sounds, everything starts from home. So start young, and we need this kind of mentorship programs to train these future leaders on how to play politics, but play it in a clean way. Avoid the dirty politics. But it's hard to implement very fast. But it's something that you have to start somewhere with, and then it progresses. But yeah, if you're entering politics, you're new to politics, steer away from the dirt. And that is also why, if I may promote, Democrat Malaya is in collaboration with Impact Malaysia and the Ministry of Youth and Sports for our next project, Democrat Youth Development Academy, where we would be recruiting, we would be opening registration to youths, 25 for each episode, so about 100 students, 100 youths who are passionate about 4 issues that we'll be focusing on: lack of education, access to education, mental health, discrimination, and sexual harassment and bullying. So if they're interested in any of these issues, when we open our registration from Democrat Malaya's page or Impact Malaysia's page, then please register, and we will be connecting them with NGOs and trained mentors, which can be politicians, think tanks, or NGOs, who would help them with interactive workshops, and the end goal is for them to come up with a policy brief or a white paper on these matters, and we will help them forward it, bring it forth to the relevant ministries, and see where we can go about it. Youth involvement in politics. I think that's one thing I would share.
Sebab saya rasa bukan saya yang memikirkan kerisauan ini seorang diri, tetapi mungkin ramai yang juga memikirkan perkara yang sama, which is isu ni kita borakkan sejak tadi lagi. Bila kita berada dalam satu sistem politik yang ada satu budayanya tersendiri, walaupun masuk belia-belia baru, which is semakin mendapat tempat ataupun andainya satu hari nanti mendapat ruang untuk berada lebih dalam sistem politik di Malaysia, tetapi jika budaya yang ditinggalkan oleh orang-orang lama ini masih lagi berada di situ, jadi akan diwarisi, bermakna dia tak akan berhenti. Macam tadi pun kita cakap, daripada national pergi ke kampus politik, pergi ke school politik, even you bercakap pendidikan awal adalah terbaik daripada rumah, dan ia akan ambil masa yang sangat lama. Dan kita harapkan para belia yang sedang menyaksikan sekarang ini, sebab itu kita selalu mengusulkan supaya menjadi ejen perubahan, supaya bersama-sama mengubah perkara ini. Kita tidak terikut untuk mewarisi budaya politik kotor yang terjadi. Saya tak tunjukkan kepada siapa-siapa, tetapi yang terjadi di depan mata kita, kita jauhi dan kita elakkan. Soalan seterusnya, satu lagi yang panas diperkatakan adalah ada yang kata belia tidak cukup matang, tapi pada masa yang sama ramai remaja sudah mula bekerja, hidup berdikari. So apa yang Ati fikir tentang perkara ini, tentang idea ini, dan adakah ia satu langkah ke arah penglibatan belia yang lebih besar dalam politik?
Okay. Youth maturity. To me, again, this is a personal opinion. This is the way I approach this discussion. Age does not matter. I think you can be 45, you can be 60, and you can still be immature. The assumption that youth are immature is outdated. It's caught the wrong train. Look at us now. Many young Malaysians are highly educated. They work full-time and they're financially independent. Not all, but many. That is a progress, right? To me, you can be mature, but not politically aware. So if you're going to associate age with maturity, yes, okay, you can be mature because you've aged, right? But are you politically aware? Do you have do you have sufficient political education? Do you have sufficient political interest? I think that doesn't come with age, or that doesn't decline just because you're young. That is how much passion you have, how much you read, and how politically aware you are. Anybody is mature enough for politics if you're politically aware. And how do you be politically aware should be the question. I think you can be politically aware in many ways, and if I can share, one is to, of course, stay informed. And how do you stay informed? From media sources, news sources, right? So local news about politics, read The Star, read The Edge, and it's all online now. It's all on your fingertips. Read. And international news, if you want the global perspective on politics, read BBC, read Al Jazeera, you get a global perspective. And to be politically aware, you need to know, when you're reading all this, that you need to be aware of media bias. Not all media are neutral. Some have their political leaning, so you need to be aware of that. And follow parliamentary debates. See what is argued about. What is the issue in the country? What are they talking about? What are they trying to solve? Read policy papers. Policy papers are always published by Ideas, REFSA. You can always Google up policy papers in Malaysia. See what's the issue. What are they coming up with? Join public policy competitions. You start with policy. Policy is so important. But every year in policy competitions, I see low turnout. But from youths especially. But policy is such an effective tool if you know and you're educated enough to use it. So read about political papers and follow election campaigns, like I said earlier. Manifestos. You don't even have to discuss if you don't want to discuss it with people, but see these manifestos of different parties. Instead of the name of the party, see what are they offering. What is the party that aligns with your values, that the candidate's values that aligns with your values. And I always feel like undi orang, undi orang instead of party, because it's that person that's going to represent you. It's that person that's going to be your leader. And track issue-based movements in countries like Bendera Putih, Lawan, Bersih. Read up about these things. Why were they important? Why did people have to come up with these movements? You would know the grassroots issues. Follow politicians, young politicians, Syed Saddiq, Hanayo, Nuruliza,
Adam Adli.
Yeah, Khairi Jamal, anybody, any politicians, they don't really have to be young. Anybody that you think is going to make a change wherever they come from, whatever party they come from. If you think they're going to make change and they have potential, follow them. See what are they talking about. Are they walking their talk? This kind of things. Constitutional literacy, legal rights literacy. What are your rights? How many of us have read the Federal Constitution who are not law students? How many of us are aware what exactly is the wordings? Yes, right is given, but where is the limitation? Like freedom of choice, all of us argue freedom of choice, it's my freedom. But where is the limitation in freedom of choice? That kind of things. I think understand the political system of the country, be politically aware. Then age doesn't matter. It's how aware and educated you are that matters at the end of the day.
Okay. Banyak dah kita bualkan berkenaan dengan permasalahan ataupun jangkaan ataupun assumption kita tentang apa terjadi di masa akan datang. Langkah-langkah yang perlu diambil. Kita akan sama-sama bicarakan selepas ini dalam Rakan Muda Presents Kuasa Orang Muda. Rakan Muda Presents Kuasa Orang Muda. Episod kali ini bersama dengan Double A, Atoy and Ati. Dan tadi kita dah banyak bualkan berkenaan dengan kita bincangkan tentang penglibatan belia dalam politik dan sebagainya. Kali ini kita nak fokus tentang langkah-langkah praktikal untuk belia mengambil bahagian dalam aktiviti sivik dan politik. Soalan yang pertama, kebanyakan belia rasa suara mereka tidak didengar langsung. Malah mereka rasa politik ini sekadar permainan orang tua-tua. Macam mana yang Ati boleh cadangkan untuk mereka bermula, terutamanya jika mereka benci politik tetapi sedar bahawa ia mempengaruhi hidup mereka secara langsung?
Okay, firstly, politik anyways is not sekadar permainan. I think they have to sedar that first. It is it is a potential tool that is not a permainan and is very important because it is masa depan negara. And the future is in your hands. You know, it's not a game where you play. It's serious. And I think these people, anybody that hates politics because of the image of it, but who wants to contribute to it, start local, start small. Students, look at your campus. Campus has politics. Campus has elections, right? Look at your campus election committee. Look at whether they have rule books. Read the rule book, see whether they walk the talk. Are campus elections being handled according to the rule book? Are they violating any rules? Start small, start locally, start around you. And if you don't want to look at campus politics, see things around you that affect you daily and see where you can bring about a change. You know, and sometimes all you need to see is the fruits of your effort, and then kita akan rasa, oh, I got the kuasa, you know, I can make change. Saya boleh bawa perubahan. You just need to see something working out in front of you. So I think start small. You don't have to go and jump to a national issue. See around you, see things that affect you, see things that, you know, makes your blood boil, right? Make an effort on that issues. There's always somebody that will share an opinion, the same opinion with you, that you can make the change with. I think that's how you do it. Start small. Okay,
start small. Bermula daripada perkara kecil untuk membuat satu perubahan yang besar. Baik, dalam situasi di mana aktivisme belia sering dianggap ancaman, adakah Ati rasa belia patut ambil risiko dan teruskan perjuangan, atau lebih baik duduk diam sampai peluang yang lebih selamat itu muncul? Bagi pendapat anda.
That is again another hard question because it honestly depends on the individual.
Okay.
How far are you willing to go with your cause? You know, you are the one advocating for it, championing the cause. So how far are you willing to go? How much are you willing to push, and how much are you willing to get pushed back?
Okay.
I think it is wrong to say that, you know, if you're championing for it, you have to ambil the risk, go drop everything, take the risk, go for it.
Okay.
I don't agree fully because I feel like it depends on the individual and the cause, like I said earlier. If you think it is an issue that needs to be, you know, championed for now, go for it if you're willing to. Remember, at the end of the day, I think you need to, everybody who are championing a cause that has this ancaman, this threats thrown at them, you need to see how much you can take, your family can take. It depends. And some people are family oriented. They're not going to make decisions that will affect their family. Some people will do it because the cause is so important for them. So it depends, honestly. Like citizenship issues. Recently, we've managed to pass bills for the Malaysian mothers. If nobody started on that issue, would we have achieved what we have achieved? So you start somewhere, but it's all about how much you are willing to go. I think it honestly depends, and also depends on the scale and magnitude of the threat that you received. It's wishful thinking to say, no matter how big it is, go for it, attack it. Depends on the person, depends on the cause.
Alright. Itu antara langkah-langkah yang boleh diambil, dan apa yang penting, macam yang Ati cakap tadi, setidak-tidaknya bermula walaupun dari sekecil-kecil perkara dan usaha. Dan paling penting adalah politik sebenarnya bukanlah sebuah permainan, tetapi politik adalah sebuah sistem yang sudah pun dipermainkan. Jadi kita jangan menjadi para belia yang ingin menyertai permainan itu untuk mempermain-mainkan sistem tersebut. Buat perubahan dan kita betulkan. Kata-kata penutup selepas ini, kita akan dengarkan daripada Ati. Mungkin ada beberapa pesanan yang boleh dijadikan panduan untuk para belia lebih faham tentang politik di dalam Malaysia dan juga di dalam dunia. Terus dia saksikan kami Rakan Muda Presents Kuasa Orang Muda. Setinggi-tinggi terima kasih kepada anda semua yang setia menyaksikan Rakan Muda Presents Kuasa Orang Muda sejak daripada awal tadi sehingga ke hampir sampai ke penghujungnya setakat ini. Dan sekarang ini ramai belia yang mendengar mungkin rasa putus asa dengan sistem yang ada, dengan rasuahnya, dengan ketidakadilannya, dengan peluang yang terhad. Apa yang anda ingin sampaikan kepada mereka yang sedang mempertimbangkan untuk meninggalkan negara atau menyerah kalah dalam perjuangan mereka? Silakan Hati.
Okay, this is something I've read somewhere that has always stick to me. We always want a soldier for our country to, fight for our causes, our needs, but we just don't want them to be from our home. We just don't want to send our family to be the hero for the country. Okay. We want a soldier, we just don't want it to be our family member. But this is your home and this is where you belong. This is your rights, your supposed rights. So stay back and fight for it as much as you can, because where are you going to go that is going to give you the privilege that comes from your own country? The power that you have here in your home country, you're not going to get anywhere else. So fight back and stand for your rights. I think as youths, it's time to make a change. It's always time to make a change. So stand for what is correct, stand for what is right, stand for what you believe in, and this is your home, so fight for it.
Yes, sama-sama kita buktikan kuasa yang ada pada orang muda. Baik, Ati, terima kasih banyak-banyak. Saya rasa banyak daripada yang Ati sampaikan hari ini setidak-tidaknya boleh memberikan panduan, kesedaran untuk membuka mata para belia di luar sana. Dan kepada semua pendengar Rakan Muda Presents Kuasa Orang Muda, ingat bahawa setiap tindakan kita walaupun kecil adalah langkah menuju perubahan yang lebih besar. Jangan takut untuk melawan sistem yang tidak adil kerana masa depan negara ada di tangan kita. Politik bukanlah sebuah permainan tetapi sebuah sistem yang telah dipermainkan. Dan dengan kuasa orang muda, sama-sama kita betulkan. Sekali lagi terima kasih Ati. Kita jumpa lagi di episod akan datang Rakan Muda Present Kuasa Orang Muda.